Stephen Laxley, I can't remember his other name. He's got loads of names. Tommy Robinson, Tommy
Yes, I
10
definitely heard of him.
names.
Yeah.
Yes. So this a very interesting character. He's okay, so it's very complex. But ultimately, this character has been funded from the very beginning by Israel, in essence.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
He's been moaning and saying, "Oh, I've been bankrupt to the tune of 1.2 million, blah 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 blah, with the courts because I'm trying to expose, these rape gangs and all this kind of stuff." And I'll tell you what, some of the content has some validity to it, some of it
Hmm.
does, but the agenda is to divide and to separate people. He highlights a very terrible thing that was happening up in Telford in regards to a very small percentage of a subgroup within Islam, and that is what they're running with. Mind you, in the news now, Hugh Edwards of BBC fame has been sending all kind of disgusting filth via WhatsApp message of children. He's been found out for this. He's been found out for this, and this is all in the papers. But yet, no one seems to be thinking, like these knuckle draggers, as I'll call them, and misguided people who have genuine concerns have been hijacked by Mr. Tommy Ten Names and the rest of the ilk to concentrate on people who are again a very small minority, and then they're mixing it in with illegal immigration.
Hmm.
So what we have is a tinder pot, and you have mainstream media gaslighting, saying, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that," and the police, we got to be careful with certain minorities and stuff because we'll be classed as racist and Islamophobic and all that. All of the stuff that they've created, they've literally got a load of wood, put it in a field somewhere, put loads of gasoline on there, and then ran
Hmm.
away. Left the
Hmm.
box of matches and load of lighters down there. Said, "Wow, wait a minute, there's a big fire going on. We don't know what happens." They've created a very hostile situation where, unfortunately, three little young girls' lives were taken in Southport. And the way the shame stream, lame stream media, and the governmental system did it, they were so ambiguous with how they reported on the perpetrator of
Hmm.
taking
Yes.
these. So what they did is they left, as the mainstream have said, they left a huge vacuum with no information. So he left
Right.
Tommy 10 names and all of the other misguided people and knuckle draggers and racists to say, "Oh, you know what? You know where that guy was? He was an immigrant. He's just came off the bloody boats. He's an immigrant. And guess what? He's a Muslim as well. He's one of those Muslim characters. Islam, I'm telling you, Islam. It's the terrorists, they're the jihadists, they're all the negative stuff. Yet, Monica, his parents were from, I think, was it Uganda or something like that?
Rwanda, which I
Rwanda,
think
that's
is
it.
interesting because there was that like $800 million
Come on.
pounds
Pounds.
that they spent to
Yes.
have like a swap or a Liberia, a little mini
Yeah.
Liberia in Rwanda. And I was like, maybe Rwanda like dog whistles people.
But he wasn't even born there. So he was actually
No,
born
but I
in.
mean,
But no, that's a good connection. That's a good connection to make. But in regards to their theories and their
yeah,
hypothesis and their filth
yes.
that was putting out on social media was,
Yeah, it's not immigrants at all.
yeah, immigrant, blah, blah, blah. But no, not at all. But again, we've then got to let's dig a little bit deeper. Terrible acts, disgusting what's taken place. What's this Taylor Swift stuff? Why has she
I
been
know. Why is she
mixed
in
into it?
and there was like a bomb thing in
In
Germany that they
some,
closed down her whole
yes.
thing. Do you 100% believe the official story of the girls that died and the event, or you just don't look
Oh,
into that
I'm not one of those that would say that there's false
hoax or
flags
whatever?
and
I'll never
hoax.
say
No,
that. Yeah. Mhm.
look,
People get hurt.
exactly. And look, there is a chance. There's always a chance
Yeah.
because I don't know it all. there is a chance that this is all totally made up. None of these people have died. There is a
That would be
chance.
great.
It would be great in respect to no one's died, but
Right.
I truly don't think. I think those poor children were in essence sacrificed, because nobody in their left mind or right mind goes out calculated as catching Ubers and all kind of stuff, then going in to where children are and doing that. As I mentioned, Project Artichoke,
Mm-hmm.
MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the subversive NGOs who are befriending people online and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you can come and join our club," and then
And
they're
the
radical.
perp, yeah, the perp was a UNICEF
Come on,
model. Yeah.
and he was in Children in Need. There was a Children in Need advertisement he was in as well.
I thought it was the same thing. Yeah. So, but I'm just saying, like, whether he was an actor, which some people think, or he was just identified and tapped, and like you're saying, radicalized online and stuff, like,
Mm.
I call these people created persons where they're
Yes,
identified very young and then
mm,
they're used for purposes.
yes, like kind of similar to of sorts, but not to that extreme. The Kathy O'Brien situation,
Oh, yeah.
where you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
those
There's a lot of that.
fractured personalities and stuff.
Yep.
The
Definitely.
kind of things that are taking place. So there's so many different questions, but again, root of it, we've got a problem with immigration. Of course, we've got a problem with
Yeah.
immigration.
Yeah.
Everyone in a major city in the first world countries, quote unquote, have problems with immigration based upon who? The governmental system, the mob who are ruling are
Yeah.
creating these problems.
They create the problems on purpose. They bring people in. First, they
Exactly.
destroy their countries. That's what people don't understand. Why do you have
Exactly.
Syrian refugees? Syria's
Yes.
fine. My grandparents were from Syria. Like, it's a place that's been around for thousands of years. What happened? A lot of bombs were dropped on that country, and it just stop. And by accommodating the immigrants, you're you're not putting pressure to stop that problem, because I don't know if the bombs are still dropping, but they were dropping during Trump's administration, and Obama
Oh yeah.
emphasis on bomb 30,000 a year, and Trump
Come
did the
on.
same.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. So what
so they
that
destroy the country. Same thing with Mexico and stuff. In South America, we mess with or the United States and the empire
yes.
messes with their economies and their
Mm.
governments.
And
And
destroys
then,
it.
yeah, and then they emigrate, and you wonder, look at what happened in Haiti.
Oh gosh.
I, I'm pretty. If I had to guess, I would say the Biden administration assassinated that guy.
Oh well.
And then what happened?
And look at the results. And
It's
look
on
at the
fire.
results. Yes. Yes. The West creates the problems, and see, this is the thing that the sheeple, the lemmings, they don't want to have that intellectual and thought-provoking conversation, or even have that introspective look at themselves. Like, okay, I can see that all this stuff's been happening, and what is the cause of it? Should I go out there like I did like the last 2 weeks ago, and start trying to burn hotels with people inside? What's the logic in that? Like the things that they were doing, robbing bakery places, shoe zones, and all, it was
But it's
mindless.
all about universal laws, changing laws for everyone, not just for the guilty. Because here's one thing that bothers me is people are committing crimes.
Mm,
Those crimes are on the books. You're not allowed to do stuff like that. Arrest those people. And that's all there is to it. Don't say, well, we in England need the United States to extradite tweeps who say stupid stuff. Like,
yeah.
that's just not the answer. It just always look to what the actual crime was. And not only do they not, do they, it's called a priori restraint. So freedom of speech here, the First Amendment, means you can't have a priori restraint before the fact. You can't say,
Yes,
you cannot say this thing because something bad might happen. What we have, and it's based in like tort law, which is common law, English common law.
indeed.
If something goes wrong, you are lose everything and go to
Yeah,
jail forever. And it's
indeed.
quite a deterrent. Like, it only has to happen once,
Mm,
something just remotely similar. Even calling fire in a crowded theater. Like, well, you can't let
Exactly.
people say that. I'm like, well, you can let one guy do it, and when the stampede happens, you can take everything he's got and throw him in jail for deliberately and intentional infliction of actual physical and emotional
Harm.
distress. Like, there are
Yes.
laws about
Yes.
this.
They certainly are. They certainly are. And obviously the Magna Carta, which is that built off 1215.
Yep.
Um, it's look what they've done now. They're arresting people for tweets and stuff. As you say, they want to bring in people from America.
Yeah.
And but Monica, there is a problem in England. We're a little tiny island, and we have, I think was it 200,000 plus legal immigration a year, 200,000
Mhm.
plus. And then we have, I think they're saying, is it 50,000 illegal immigrants and stuff, or migrations, what you want to
Oh,
call it,
really? Is
on
that
Dragon?
all?
That's all they're trying to. I think that figure is well underreported personally, but that's what the
Right.
statistics that they
Because
bring forth.
ours are like tens of millions. Yeah, like, we have millions.
Well,
But
the
the
thing,
legal ones, to me, the legal ones are the ones who compete with your kids to get into school. They compete with you to get your
yes,
jobs. That here, the illegal ones are the ones who like clean your house for nothing.
yeah,
Like, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I'm just saying there's a lot of focus on that. And they're intentionally letting in people who would not pass any kind of basic screen for good behavior, which is they shouldn't
exactly.
do that. Yeah, but and then when they catch them here, actually, they let them go. They always end up on the radar. They always end. I've never heard any of these stories where the guy did not have a previous record.
Of
Even stories
course.
they're not promoting. It's they caught the guy once before. They
Let him
didn't
off.
deport him. Yeah.
Yes.
So the system, obviously, the system is doing this on purpose
On
because it's very
purpose.
clear. Yeah,
Yes.
how to not have it turn
Of
out this way.
course. It's so blaringly obvious, but the
I
majority of
know.
the people are saying we've got a problem when we need these governments and we need these politicians to try and sort it out. So back to England, Monica, we don't have enough prison space. In September, they're letting out God knows how many prisoners because on an early prisoner release scheme because the prisons are on they're dilapidated. I think the Tories, the Conservatives, they built, I think, 2 new prisons and they've shut like 7 prisons or something like that. Shut and closed. Like there's not enough space for these prisoners. And then it's like, okay, how much is it costing? I work hard, just like you work hard, just like many people work hard. And my money is going to house prisoners in the
From other
lap of
countries.
luxury from other countries and this country.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it is, I've
Yeah.
got people who work within the justice system, and a lot, Monica, a lot of it is from Russia, from uh, a lot of Eastern European countries, and it's disgusting what
Well,
I'm seeing.
they better watch it because here the prison industrial complex is a big business and the guys who build the prisons, and there's been scandals about this, and I've also just heard tell from actual experiences of people I know
Mhm.
that they'll bribe the lawmakers and the judges to put people in jail, to make harder laws, to make three strikes you're out, to fill the jails and build more jails because they're so profitable. Because here we have private
Of
jails.
course. Well, we have them
And it's
now. We have them
impossible.
now. We have privately built and operated, but
Yeah.
subsidized partially by the I think is it Serco, but they're losing their contracts because they're not doing what they're supposed to. The barrier to entry to be a prison officer is ridiculous. They're literally saying, "Hey, you want a job, mate?" And they're coming on. They've got no kind of clue about anything. And as I
Yeah.
say, so it's like £30,000 per prisoner per month or something like that. It's they've got PlayStations and all kind of stuff, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
yeah.
Wow.
So there's no rehabilitation. There's no like yeah. It's just a holiday camp for them.
Well, I'll tell you two things. One, we were talking about Son of Sam before. When I actually did dig into his story, he ended up being a really powerful born again evangelist from
Yes.
prison. And he won't ask for parole or anything because he doesn't deserve it. But I mean, it's really interesting what he's done with his prison sentence. I never heard anything like it. But something I think is interesting about the immigration story that we're talking about, that they brought in the immigrants. It causes a lot of conflict. It creates a need for prisons and
Mm.
crime, all this kind of stuff. And what I think is a hopeful, well, maybe it's not hopeful, but it's a positive observation is I think the thing that makes government run is fear. So it's
Yes.
I would say it's like fiscal fear. So if you think you're not gonna have enough money, or physical fear, like if you
Mm,
have the money, that's gonna get taken away from you. So
yes.
both of those things. And the fact that they have to try so hard, just like the brainwashing, just like the propaganda, they have to try so hard to create strife and conflict among us makes me think that in the absence of need, so I would say that I mean, I'm positive that the earth can sustain without too much effort all the people on it.
Oh,
There's
of
enough food for
course.
everybody.
Yes.
And now that it's getting warmer, which I don't even necessarily believe. I have no idea whether it's getting warm or not. There's plenty of space where it's not, you don't have to live on an
Yes.
iceberg.
Yes.
So there really would be no conflict, and they have to work hard for it, which is a testament to, I would say, the goodness of the humanity. And I also think that that's what JFK was referring to in a way. And his last speech, it was at American University. Some people think this is the speech that got him killed. I wouldn't be surprised, because what he was saying is, I want a peace for all time, not a Pax Americana, but just a
Yeah.
peace for all time, because we're capable of it, because
Mm.
and we would have it. We would have it in the absence of need. I think we would have it, which makes me think that man is inherently good, and that it's
Oh,
these
yeah.
outside forces that make us
Yes.
bad.
Manipulating. It's the outside forces that manipulate, and when you have a weak vessel that allows those spirits to enter,
Yeah.
and you don't know that that spirit has entered, you just think, oh, I'm feeling really good today.
Yeah.
Things are actually working, things are happening. Oh, I'm making money, and oh, I like this. And then they'll show them something, and they show you, like people do it, talking. Oh, I want to talk to my mother. I want to talk to my dead mother, my grandmother. I
Ooh.
didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and I've got some unresolved
Yeah.
things. And unfortunately, that's an unfamiliar spirit you're talking to, who knows all these fallen angels who have been on this plane of existence for all of this time, hearing behind the backgrounds, watching. The term the watchers from Enoch.
Mhm.
What do you think they were watching? Humanity, people. This
It's
is
funny, yeah, because I had an aunt, and, my Aunt Margaret, I may have told you about her before. She was really funny. She was an English teacher. She grew up in or lived in the projects when she was first married, and she used to smoke Pall Malls,
I
filterless
know,
Pall
yes, I
Malls.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and Monica, my dear girl, um, I I heard you went to a medium. And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "What, you think that's bullshit?" And she said, "Oh, no. I'm sure she was highly accurate." And
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, so is it okay?" She said, "No, it was the devil talking." And I
That's
was
it.
like, "Holy
Yes.
shit." I was like, "Oh."
Yes.
Yeah, so she completely, like, I thought she was just gonna invalidate it, and she believed in it more than anybody else, and
Yeah.
she was like, "You cannot go in there."
It's trickery again. It's trickery on a spiritual level with this technological stuff that they're doing. The media, it's all trickery to take you away from the natural, as you said, mankind, woman, and naturally good. It's these external influences, the chemical influences via our diets, via the foods, the alleged
Mhm.
food that we're eating. It's destroying us, all of the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi. We're being bombarded
Yeah,
every single place we turn,
yeah.
everywhere.
The screens are just such a phenomenon that's, like, impossible for me to get my mind around. Like, when I look at my children, and I thought of that they actually went to a school where there was no phones or screens allowed. I don't even know if they were allowed in high school. My kids only went there in grammar school, and I kept away from them for that long. Then when they got them, I mean, it possessed them, and
I,
now they're okay with it, and they can basically deal with it. But the fact that without just the really bad stuff that could come out of that and
Mm.
porn and even TikTok, which I think is porn for girls,
Oh yeah.
because I think it's the girls like want to be the object of the porn.
Yes.
So I feel like they somehow like got that down as well. Like even without that really bad stuff, the fact that our interactions are, you know,
Cyber.
are fake. Yeah, they're fake. Like,
Mm.
I mean, I love you and I'm so happy that I know you and that
Mhm.
we can talk,
Yes.
but and that's a huge upside. I mean, they have Big T they has to live with that and I'm sure they don't
Yes.
prefer it,
Indeed.
but beyond that when it changes your local experience as well, I feel like something is definitely I don't know if it's lost or it's just where it's gonna go. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it.
Well, look at the speech. These youngsters, they can't talk. Their communication
Mm.
skills are zero.
They can't write. They
Bloody
don't
hell.
even teach them like handwriting
Cursive
anymore.
writing? No,
Yeah, they
not at
can't
all.
read it.
Nope. Nope.
That's crazy. And it's so intimate. It's so personal. And
Exactly.
even when I write my notes for my show or when I often write longhand, write a letter
The feeling
and
that you get.
yeah, and they say it's like you learn better that way. So I don't know if
Yes.
that's part of it, but yeah, I
Pen
mean,
to
it's probably
paper.
rewire our minds.
They totally have. These masterful space monkeys, these demons, they have, I have to give them a round of applause. They're clever. They're so clever. But it's because that people acquiesce to authority
Yeah.
because we've been brainwashed into believing if the costume fits, you've got to acquiesce. You just got to. Whatever it is authority for a reason. Even though are you not supposed to be a sovereign being and a being with unlimited potential and ideas? Why are you being limited?
So let me ask you this. I have gone through many kind of permutations of being a libertarian.
Yes.
I was raised a traditional conservative, really a libertarian, classical liberal, I think is what I would call it. Classical liberal, which is like a libertarian. And I was an anarcho-capitalist, a
Yes.
philosophical agorist. And then just at the same time that there was this whole post-libertarian movement here where all these guys are like, libertarianism doesn't work. I want, I'm not gonna say they all want fascism, but they're
Yeah.
like, I want church and state to get back together again, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it happens to be that my thinking changed. And so I'm suspicious even of my own thought process,
Mhm.
but I'm circling back and thinking the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights, no matter whether it was conceived in, without sincerity or conceived in liberty, I think it's quite powerful. I think that if it could be preserved and obeyed, it would be a reasonable form of structure for human society.
Yes.
And I wonder what you think about and I've asked you this question before, so it would be like how is it how have you changed your
Yeah.
thinking over this same time period?
In what respects?
So, do you like I don't know how familiar you are with the US Constitution and the Bill of
Yes.
Rights, but do
Yes.
you like the
Yes.
Magna Carta? Do you want anarchy? And I mean
Oh, I
that in a good
see. No,
way. Do
no,
you
no,
want
no.
anarcho-capitalism?
Yes.
Do you believe in a state that offers welfare or bans abortion? Like if you don't have to, if you don't want to talk about
No,
politics, you
no,
don't
no,
have
no,
to,
no,
but I'm
no, no,
just
no, no,
curious
no.
about your ideology at this time.
No, it aligns with, you know, the phrase, I'm old school like Shelto Adidas. So those old school values were drawn from the Bill of Rights, were drawn from the Magna Carta. These are very much core values, which unfortunately they're not necessarily held up now, but those things most definitely work. They worked for that from the for well 12, 15 onwards up until I would
Yeah.
say what 17 late 1700s. That's
Yeah.
where we
So
start to
that's a
see.
rule of law. Like
Yeah.
that's enough for me. Like that answers my question enough. Like there's a
Yes.
rule of law. And I feel like because and I feel like this is a trap that was deliberately set um by the people who mm, I mean, I love Murray Rothbard. I'm not saying that, but I feel like the libertarian impulse was definitely exploited
Oh yes, majorly.
to maybe break down the nation state, which is perhaps our last defense against world government, or um, I don't, and I'm not even saying I like or hate the nation state. I really don't. I just can't make definitive answers, prescriptions for the whole world or any of that. But I respect, like, as a libertarian, you kind of think very individually, but we're not, we are, this is a society. We
It
are
is.
interacting,
I'm
and my
linked.
land does abut my neighbor's land, and we do actually have
Mm,
a literal dispute about the fence right now,
wow.
and we're going to resolve it with each other. But I called a lawyer and I said, well, if we couldn't resolve it, how would it pan out in the law
Yes.
based on previous cases that were adjudicated about this exact same issue? And he
Mm,
told me. So now I'm sure the other guy did the same thing.
mhm.
We know what the answer is, and we're just going to do that.
Yes.
And there's value in that. And yes, if
There
we could
is.
go back in time, custom may be enough for that. I don't know how
Mm,
the American Indians used to do it. They didn't have the same structure, or even like from 1215 to
yes.
1520. Maybe it was a little more informal, but that's common law. It's respected.
Exactly.
And if you have a small enough group, like y'all can just enforce it among yourselves.
Indeed. It's community. It's bringing back the true sense of a community. You
Mhm.
having that conversation rather than going on the blower and saying, Mr. Policeman, I need you here
Oh,
pronto to sort this
right.
stuff out. I've got a dispute. I'm not woman
Yeah.
enough or man enough to have the
Yes,
conversation
exactly.
and resolve.
Exactly. My father taught us that never call the cops. You got to just go over there and say your piece. And when I first got married, we had some issue. My husband said, I'm just going to call the county. And I said, "Uh, over my dead body." He was like, what? And I said, you can't do that. Nut up. Go
Yeah.
over and tell the guy. And he was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like he was taught not
Yes.
to make trouble, not to let your, don't have, that way you could smile at the guy.
Indeed.
You have no
Confrontation.
conflict. But
Yes.
I said, and my husband is a man who's like, "Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, you're right.
It
Sorry,
makes
I didn't even
perfect
think of it."
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
it.
it's
But
much better that way.
yes, but it takes, Monica, it takes us to have those conversations with not just, not just here, but in real life.
Yeah.
Saying to your uncle, saying to your auntie, your sister, your mother, whoever it may be, have the conversation. Who's your new neighbor? Have you knocked the door and introduced yourself?
Yeah.
Like in the olden days, you'd move into a property at a minimum. You would knock
Yeah.
either side and introduce yourself. I've just moved in. This is who I am, etc. People
Yeah.
don't do that these days. They'll
Yeah.
be moving in with their moving van, scowling at you and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
wait a
yeah,
minute.
building the fence,
Yeah.
immediately building the fence. It's to our credit, the neighbors did bring us gifts, and I did make a point of going around and telling people who we are. I try to do that anyway because I have this crazy son who has
Mm,
Down syndrome, and he likes
yes.
to, whatever, put his guitar on his back and try to share a song with the world. And the next thing you know, he's like on a
Yes.
mountain somewhere. So I try to tell people, like, if you see someone who looks like a leprechaun with Down syndrome. So my son grew this beard and it came in red,
Wow.
like orange, and his hair is just light brown, but his so it came in orange. It looks like a leprechaun.
Whoa.
So I always try to make friends with my neighbors anyway. Plus, you don't want to get in trouble because if you I have a conservatorship, so I'm responsible for him by the
Yeah.
court because
Yes.
he's an adult.
Yes.
And you don't want to seem irresponsible
Of
because then if something like that
course.
happens, you have trouble. So I have to have a relationship with the neighbors, but it's
Indeed.
helpful because when you have the dispute with the fence, like we invited them over and like, see, this is what it looks like from our side of the fence.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh, I didn't realize that that's what we had done. And so
Yes.
it's totally resolved it. But it was much better
But that's a
than
crazy thing
being
in
hostile.
America. Oh, well, exactly. It's always best
Yeah.
to try and address and attack things, in a polite, calm, measured way. And trustfully, that can be resolved. But a thing in America that I've noticed is you guys don't have much like delineation between boundaries and stuff unless you live like in a detached property. Like when you go out the back, I don't see any fences or anything. I'm just seeing just
It's very regional. So are you talking about a place that you've been
so let's
or that
say
you've seen like
I've
when you watch
seen
shows?
like yeah, like what stuff I'm seeing in the Midwest. There's like loads of different places.
Yeah, yes. So I only ever really live in pretty densely populated areas.
Ah,
So
okay.
I always live in like I call them suburbs because I'm from New York, and
Yes.
in my opinion, if you have grass,
The
you are not
suburbs.
living in the city. Yeah, that's the suburbs. Like single blade of grass. If there's anything but concrete, you live in the
Yes.
suburbs. And I remember when I lived in Dallas, I was like, "Where's the city?" And then there were a couple of buildings. I was like, "Does anyone ever go in the city?" Like, you live in the city. I'm like, "This is a city. It's a pretty small
Wow.
city." Like, this is one of the biggest cities in the country. I'm like, I don't know about it's still a pretty
Wow.
small city.
Yeah.
So when you live kind of tight, like at one point I had an eighth of an acre, which is extremely small. So for us, and
That's massive.
oh no, that's tiny. I have a half an acre right now and I'm in LA, which is massive. That is massive. And but I'm in the very outskirts of LA. You would
Okay.
call I think it's the exurbs. I'm like practically in a mountain. But yeah, so when you live super close, if you have dogs, you have to have a
Yeah.
fence. But when I lived in Dallas, there was one neighborhood called the Greenway or the Greenbelt or something where fences were illegal. So and then Denver, I've seen that too, where they're illegal so that you do in the backyard so the kids can play for and until the street so that the kids basically have a football field in the back. It's super awesome.
But
And but a lot of it's laws.
but okay, I can understand that children being able to play in the rear of the property, but that's my garden. I don't want children running up and down, terrorizing, playing football
Yeah.
and tag and all that stuff. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm having a barbecue here. I've got my family. Can you just like,
Yeah. You have to decide to live there. And actually, I knew a guy who he said their family had lived there for so long that one of the neighbors once overnight basically built a pool, like started building, got a backhoe back there and just said, "I'm building a pool," which was illegal. And so his grandfather sued the guy. The guy kept building the pool. He said, "I'm suing you. I'm going to make you stop." He built the whole pool, which today, that's like $80,000, whatever.
yes.
And the grandpa won and they filled the pool in. And and look, they had to fill the pool in. So as a libertarian, people can say you have absolute private property rights, but this was not actually a law. It was an agreement. So if you bought one of these 100 houses, same
Ah,
thing in the Denver area. If you
yes,
bought one of those, they have these homeowners associations.
indeed.
You are volunteering to sign that contract. It affects the price of the property. It can make the price of the property go down or up. But if you violate that,
Yeah.
you're really changing the nature. So a lot of those are voluntary, but there are definitely zoning laws. And one thing that's starting to happen, I remember in Johns Creek, Georgia, they started adopting
Oh,
the UN laws, which I know they have in Switzerland, which tells you how high your hedges can be, how far out your fence can be. So
wow.
that stuff they're trying to make not only, I mean, here it can vary from town to town. They're
Yes,
trying to make it international, which to me is crazy because the
that's
most
nuts.
fundamental thing that should inform law is the actual physical land because it's so different from place to
Of
place, and that's why
course.
it changes a very person's,
Yeah.
a very like the actual physical bodies of communities who live there long enough.
Indeed, indeed. And it gives you the I mean, obviously America's very different, as you say, with the home association stuff. Oh, you can't put lights up and you can't do
Yeah.
this and all this. We don't have nothing like that over here.
No, nowhere.
You buy no, you buy a house. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things like like there are like certain developments. Like they'll say when we was looking for our second palace, we was told that we can't change the color of the door or something like that.
Wow.
And we were like, well, we want a black door. We don't want any other color door. We want a black door. And it's, oh, well, so we obviously didn't end up buying that palace. We went
So
and
you
bought something.
didn't. You didn't
No,
buy it. Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yes. But we have pretty much, you can, once you've purchased your property, outside of building stuff, you can do whatever you wish.
Yeah, we have mostly that. I wouldn't want
Mm,
to misrepresent that, but I do, but there are definitely like laws about offsetting and, we
mm.
can't build our pool. We're going to build a pool. It has to be like 6 feet in from the edges of our
Yes.
property, stuff
Boundary
like that.
wise.
That's
Yeah.
zoning laws, just regular zoning laws, which frankly, I never really thought zoning laws were necessary as a real libertarian. And in a real libertarian society, I don't think they would be, because if you don't subsidize building roads, if you don't give
Mm,
tax advantages to real estate developers, there would be so much less building. Like they're overcompensated for tearing down old houses, building McMansions,
yeah.
pushing the edges of the house to the very edges of the property. So
Yes.
little of that would happen that you
Mm,
would have communities that just emerge organically. It's that, and that's one of the problems with one of the things about my ideological progression. I can't wait forever for a libertarian society.
indeed.
Libertarians, they die by the sword, but they don't live by it. Like I'm going to obey those rules. I'm going to
Yes.
build I'm not going to take a stand and have them fill
Mm,
in my pool. I'm just going
yes.
to, do the best I can to live free.
Mm. Because
And
as you say, there has to be rules. There has to be rules and guide, at least guidelines in place. Because I mean, the Town and Planning Act came into effect in 1954, I think, in England. That totally changed the landscape of
oh,
building.
really?
Oh, majorly. Prior to that, we were building houses and stuff like no one's business. There was so many different
Oh,
independent
yeah.
house builders, along with the government building loads of houses,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands of houses.
Mm-hmm.
This act then kept basically what it meant is you buy land, you buy lands, you build a house within reason. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
This act came into practice and they said, "Oh no, wait a minute! If you've got that land, that's wonderful, Monica. Submit your plans and we'll approve them, or we won't approve them.
Yeah.
We don't like that plan, Monica. What you need to do is we want this type of house there or this type of building. You build it to that standard and we'll allow you to build the house." So that put a huge stop on the house building.
I'm waiting a year. When we moved into this house a year ago, we applied immediately for to build the pool and a little house with the pool.
Hmm.
And just a one room little house. And
Yes.
it's been a year. And and we haven't gotten approval yet. And there's a terrible housing shortage here in LA.
Oh
And they
yeah.
said, well, we fast track anything like that. If you've got a kitchen in it and a bathroom, like we will just fast track it. So I guess a year is fast tracking it. But there's no that the thing is, at the bottom line of whatever the laws or rules, if they're enforced or if they're, just agreed to or whatever, it really
Mhm.
should reflect the will of the people. And here, like even in my little town, it's governed by LA County, which is
Wow.
so big. It's so many miles. It's dozens of like millions, tens of millions of people live here. And it goes from the ocean to the mountains to beyond the mountains. And
Wow.
to have the same laws, it just doesn't make sense. There's no control over it whatsoever. I mean, the more you realize this democracy that we were talking about earlier
Yes.
is an illusion. That
Very
is
much
the
so.
opiate of the masses,
Yeah.
not religion. Democracy is the opiate of the masses.
100%. 100%. Don't counties have a lot more sort of control? Municipal counties and all that, don't they have more of a say in what's going on, or
Yes,
does that not apply?
cities and counties oftentimes are contiguous, like they're the exact same entity. In LA, there's a city and then there's the county around it. New York is,
Okay.
not strictly like that. But so they're different. There's concentric circles, laws within laws.
Ah,
But I would say I've been told that it's because I'm New York that I think in terms of counties, that
okay.
New York is like county based. I don't know it seems like it's county based out here too, but and the counts, I think it's from when the counts came over and,
Ah, makes sense.
they had a
Yes.
fiefdom and then that's how it
Yes.
was governed. But yeah, so
Nuts.
colonialism
The
for you.
wonders of it. The wonders of it. But Monica, we spoke about these two topics, which are so much intertwined and we've gone here, there, and everywhere, it's, terrible to a point, but this is a very good time to be alive. We're seeing things that our ancestors would have never have seen. We're still here, all praise to the Most High. I still think there's some more woes to come, financially, spiritually, emotionally, and all the rest of it. But I do see a lot of positive change coming, because
Hmm.
this wickedness cannot last forever, and it's
And
getting more
yeah.
and more wicked of sorts.
Look at how much energy, like I mentioned, two different ways in which they just have to spend so much energy
Mm,
keeping the negativity going.
yeah.
I think that may be, now that we're talking about it, that if you've heard about how much actual energy AI takes,
Oh
how much
yes.
like they need nuclear power for it, like
Yes.
it'll just absolutely dwarf what we use now as
Mm,
human beings. I'm hoping that that's what stops it, because I agree with you. How can they sustain the level of energy that they
mm,
are putting into maintaining this conflict among us? I mean,
yeah.
it seems like it takes all they've got. They've got to like outsource it to AI and nuclear
Yeah.
plant. I mean, can they really do that?
Mm,
Is that realistic? I hope
yes.
not.
It's yeah, exactly. We can hope and pray, and keep on being diligent and doing the work. Ultimately, that we need
Yeah.
more voices. We need to have more conversations like this. We need more people to have these conversations offline, within their circle, within their family, and not just to have the conversations, but to potentially adopt and make changes. Because the first point is to have the idea and to have the conversation, but then we need to put something in action.
Yeah.
um Many people are talking about revolutions. If we look back at history, the only successful revolutions are bloody revolutions. I think they may have their place in their time, but I really do think, and I've thought this for many, many years, 20 plus years, that non-compliance, man,
Yeah.
non-compliance. It's the only way to bring forth any change, and it will only take a very short period of time, 2, 3 days at the very most.
And it can, I think I observed that the you have to impart to your kids, to your family, like to the, as you raise new generations, whatever, as we influence each other, the freedom of mind
Mm,
to not, they really want you to feel like you have to conform and
yeah.
go along.
Hmm.
And so you have to start with teaching your kids right and wrong no matter what. You
Yeah.
don't have to, you can do non-compliance, but your goal should just be not to cooperate with the bad, and not the goal, because the goal make you feel overwhelmed. But if you feel
Yes.
like it's just matters, I'm fighting for my soul here, not my life.
Mm,
And then I think that's our hope, and I see it. I see it in the next generation. That is not lost. That battle is
yes.
not
Oh
lost.
yeah, that spark is there. It's just
Yeah, for
misguided.
sure.
It's just majorly misguided.
Yeah. Yeah. We can get it back. There
We
is
can.
hope.
We can. Well, Monica, it's been wonderful. I know I've taken quite a bit of your time.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yes,
perfect.
excellent timing. I will put all your links below in the description.
Thank you.
Trustfully, everybody has had a thought-provoking and edutaining listen. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. We are gone.